Good morning, my name is Patrick Gerber. I attend radio. Last week you guys got to hear from my beautiful wife, Jordan.
Yes.
And she did an awesome job, and that makes me a little bit nervous because I want to do better than her. So if you could tell me that on my way out, that would be really, really appreciated. Today we're going to be talking about this verse. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. So I could quote this verse way before I ever cared about Jesus. Way before I'd ever even opened the Bible. Because as a jerk teenager, it was simply the best way for me to win an argument. It's just true. So I would be a little insecure and I'd be in an argument and boom, I'd hit him with the Jesus smackdown. Right? My mom tell me what to do. Oh, Mom, don't judge. That's what Jesus says. My friends would be, hey man, I'm concerned about your behavior. Hey, don't judge me. That's what Jesus says. But the problem was, I never actually read what Jesus said. So I didn't really know what he said. So I think I may have missed the point a little bit as a teenager. But luckily for you all, I've been studying this passage in our preaching huddle for the last couple weeks. And I'm here to tell you that it's not about winning arguments. I don't even think it's really about judging others. I think Jesus is trying to say something more than be nice to each other. As we read this today, I want you guys to just open your ears so we can fully hear what Jesus has to say, and maybe hear this in a new way than we've heard it before. So we're looking at Matthew 7, verses 1 through 5 on the Sermon on the Mount. And Jesus says, do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. With the measure you use, it'll be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? Why can you say to your brother, let me take that speck out of your eye, when the whole time there's a plank in your eye? You hypocrite. First take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Let's pray. Jesus, thank you for being in this room with us. Thank you for coming in and just reminding us that we can let go of all the expectations and all the judgments and all the worries that we've carried in here. Let us be at peace right now and know you're here so we can hear your words, take them out of this room into our week with your peace and your grace. Amen. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. The first people who heard these words on that mountainside, they really, really understood judgment. See, the Jewish people at that time, their worth, their entire identity was bound to these 613 commandments from the Mosaic Law, right? So they had to follow them perfectly. And on top of that, the Pharisees then were like, oh, let us make up like another 1,000 rules that you have to follow on top of the 613. Thank God we are not the Pharisees, right? That would be really, really hard. I couldn't do it. But as I've been looking at this, I think we are a little bit like the Pharisees, just as humans. We take the expectations, the standards, the rules that are handed to us by society, or that we just simply make up. We put them on ourselves, or we put them on somebody else. So, yeah, I'm one of these people. I do that to myself. I have all these expectations for myself that I either put on someone else or I put on myself. So, for 34 years, I've been trying to do this. I've been trying to be good enough, smart enough, successful enough, respected enough, so I could feel good enough, right? Because I'm trying to make it happen. I can even remember in high school, at my high school graduation, I was so insecure that I was literally ranking myself against all the other kids at graduation. I remember thinking, okay, intelligence, I'm not as smart as those guys. I'm smarter than that guy, right? Okay, looks, I got a big zit right here, so I'm not as good looking as him. A little bit better looking than him. I went down to this list. Opportunities, intelligence, success. I even remember ranking myself on how much nicer I was than other people. Right? That's just not that smart of a thing to do. It's kind of ironic. But all my judgment and all my comparison that I've done in my life has never once led me to satisfaction. Never once. It's only led to destruction. And by that I mean I'm either destroying a relationship with someone else because I'm judging them, I'm hurting their feelings, diminishing their dignity, taking away their worth, or I'm destroying myself. I'm setting the standard that I say, you have to get here before you can feel good, right? And I leave empty, I leave alone, I leave feeling less than. So, later in Matthew, Jesus tells us that if you live by the sword, you die by the sword, right? Remember that? I think he's trying to say something similar here. He's saying that if you seek your worth through judgment, you will find your unworthiness in that same judgment. Let me say that again. If you seek your worth through judgment, you're going to end up finding that you're probably unworthy because of the same judgment. Wow. So why do we do this to each other? Why do we judge? Why do I look the speck of sawdust in my brother's eye, and I don't look the plank in my own eye? Now, I think Jesus was asking this rhetorically, but I have the answer, so I'm really excited. It's because we're really insecure. That's why we judge. Self-reflection is hard, and judgment's really easy and it feels really good, right? At least for me. And then Jesus would say, you hypocrite, stop. Take the plank out of your own eye so you can help your brother, right? So to kind of understand this part, I had to do a little studying, and I realized that in chapter 5 of the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus goes through all of these passages, and he pretty much levels the playing field of our self-righteousness. He says that our anger is at the same level as murder, that our lustful thoughts are at the same level as adultery, that we should love our enemy the same way we love our friends. He says, you can't judge each other because you're all exactly like each other, right? So in Jesus' worldview, we're all the same. His answer to why shouldn't you judge is because you're on the same level. His answer to judgment is empathy. You should understand how each other feel. So he first tells us to self-reflect. See the plank in our own eye, right? Then he tells us to humble ourselves. Take the plank out of your own eye so you can see clearly. And then to act with empathy. To remove the speck from our brother's eye because we know how it feels. We know how it feels to be angry, right? We know how it feels to have thoughts about things we want. We know how it feels to be hated. We know how it feels to be loved. We know how it feels to have something in our eye, that feeling when it just hurts and it's kind of itchy and watery. And we know how it feels to get it out. It feels good. So, sidebar, I work for an eye doctor, and about once a month, he comes to me and tells me that he got a call in the middle of the night from some woodworker or metal worker who's called because they have a giant shard of metal or wood in their eye. These stories are gross, and they're my favorite. And if you want to hear more, I'll tell you later. But they always go like this. He gets a call 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. This guy is in pain because he's got this big metal shard in his eye. And Dr. Gerber does the same thing every time. Goes to the office, he opens up the doors, and he takes it out. He never asks them, hey, why weren't you wearing your safety goggles, right? Oh, did you bring your insurance card? No, that conversation never happens. He just takes it out of their eye because he knows the pain they are in. Right. See, empathy can lead to healing, but judgment will always leave pain. So Dr. Gerber taught me that. And to be clear about what I'm saying, I think we need good judgment in our lives. We need to be wise. We need to have discernment. We need to know how to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe. Who can we trust? What's the right thing to do? What's the situation to get involved with and which ones to avoid? But Jesus is telling us here, I think, that godly judgment, good judgment, starts with empathy. And it has to start with empathy because we're all the same. And the minute you think you're not, Jesus is saying you're wrong. So, what does it look like for us to live out this empathy, this holy empathy in our judgment in our daily lives? I think Jesus gives us an amazing picture of this with the story of the woman caught in adultery. So this woman was brought into public, right in front of Jesus, to be shamed, to be judged, to be killed. Right? And Jesus' answer to the religious leaders who brought her there was to humble them through empathy. He says, yeah, she did a sinful thing. But which one of you hasn't done a sinful thing? Because if there's one of you here, go ahead. Throw the first stone. And they all walk away. Because he got them to self-reflect. He got them to take a second to see the plank in their own eye. He got them to empathize and then walk away. And then Jesus, the one guy who had the right to judge her, right? He doesn't judge her. He says, I have grace for you. Right? He says, I don't condemn you.
Right.
But he also doesn't condone the behavior. He says, I don't condemn you. Go and sin no more. I think this is our roadmap. Instead of judgment, we need to live in empathy. It's a combination of empathy and grace. So the next time you're like driving down the street out here and somebody cuts you off and honks their horn, empathy and grace, right? The next time your friend says, yeah, I'm going to do that for you, and they don't, empathy and grace. The next time you're too hard on yourself, empathy and grace. The next time your enemy does something against you, that guy at work you can't stand, that neighbor who you always have fights with, empathy and grace. This is what Jesus is telling us. So I think the takeaway for me is that Jesus says, yeah, you can judge. It's an option. You can be hypocrites. You can destroy yourselves. You can destroy each other's. Or you can listen to me. You can follow me. And I wish I would have done this as a teenager. We can follow him into empathy. So we can love our brother. So we can see clearly. As the guys come back up, I just want to leave you 3 questions here to kind of frame these thoughts. Ask yourself this week, what standards are you holding on to that you can just let go of because they're not God's? That you're trying to live up to that you don't need to anymore? What do you need to see inside yourself that could give you humility and empathy for your brothers and sisters? And then, what person this week can you go out and instead of judging them, that you can meet them with that empathy, that we can love them like Jesus loved us? My prayer for us this week as we go out is, instead of living in judgment, that we can live in empathy so we can love each other the way Jesus loved us.